morning and welcome to The Future Is Now. Guess what? We don't have a guest today. So it's just Bishop Crystal and myself. We haven't done this in a while,
I think
Bishop.
we're overdue.
We are definitely overdue.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about some different topics as it relates to education.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And we're going to provide information from our own experience, but we'll
Yes.
provide resources and valuable information for our listening audience.
Yes.
But I think
Yes.
every now and then we need to do this.
I think we do too. Yes.
Yes. And we have
So,
so much planned today that we'll
yeah.
definitely have to do a part
We
two.
will maybe part 2 or in 3.
Part two
Yeah,
and three,
Yes. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
We are just excited to be here today, and we want to be mindful of your time, and
Yes.
we want every moment just to count for you. And so as we share today, we want to make sure that we're talking to you. It's a conversation we're having with each other, but we're also having it with all of you today. And so even throughout the telecast today, if you have a comment or a question, we welcome those. So just put it right in the chat, and we'll make sure that the staff gets it to us. We may not get to all of them today, but as we said a moment ago, we're open to revisiting this conversation because I definitely think it's an ongoing one. It's a rich one, and there are issues that face every educator, an educational system, and every student, every learner. Because sometimes we think of students, we think about young children, but I'm talking about learners in general. And at every age, we ought to be lifelong learners. I tell my people all the time, never stop learning because there's always so much to learn. If we stopped learning, we wouldn't have microwaves or computers.
Yes.
We'd be antiquated, but we want to be relevant. And one thing I've learned about education, Pastor Chris, is that it has always lagged behind society. It's like we're always trying to play catch up. But I thank God that He gives us a strategy where we
Yes.
can be ahead of the game and not allow things to creep up on us unawares.
Right.
So I know that we both have our own educational journey. We want to talk about some challenges and some possible solutions to those challenges today. But I thought we would begin just by talking about our journey. Why do we go into education the first? Why do we do this? Why
Yes.
do we how do we become what we are right now? So Pastor Chris, we want to hear from you first.
I was telling Bishop Crystal before the broadcast started that I went into education by accident. I had no desire to be a teacher. I wanted to be everything but.
Mhm.
However, it was shared with me that that I would be in education or that I should pursue a career in education. I can remember one of my mentors encouraging me to go into special education, and I said, "Oh no." I said, why would I go into special education? I said, because I just felt like those that worked in special education after a while, they just, they just the effects of working with the students in the
Yeah.
basement. It was
Oh, yes, back
back in the
then.
day,
Yes,
you
yes.
didn't have mainstreamed
Right. That's true.
classrooms or
That is true.
so
Mhm.
it just took its effect on the teachers.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't want that, and I said had given some teachers some difficult times. So,
Not
um,
you.
yeah, believe it or not, I did. Um, yeah, I
Uh,
always like to talk.
uh-huh.
So sometimes somebody put on Facebook recently said, okay, for those of you who had on your report card that he or she talks too much,
Oh,
what are
wow.
you doing now? And it would be interesting. I would be sitting sometimes with African American kids or kids of color,
Uh-huh.
and they would move me because I was talking and move me over with the Caucasian kids in the classroom, and then I would be talking to them as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So it didn't
It didn't
matter.
matter.
It did not matter.
Wow.
But eventually I did realize that I had to stop talking long enough to do the work,
Yes.
and that I could utilize the gift of gab for something positive.
Yes,
And
yes.
actually, speaking of the gift of gab, I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to be on TV. I wanted to take
Like
Brian Gumbel's
now.
job on the Today Show. God
Yes.
brings our desires full circle.
Yes, he does.
So,
Mm.
wanted to be on TV, wanted to take Brian Gumbel's job on the Today Show. I wanted to be bigger than Oprah. When I was a little boy, I used to
Yes.
watch Oprah with my grandmother on
Uh-huh.
People Are Talking in
Okay.
Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
So well before she went to Chicago and AM
Uh-huh.
Chicago became the Oprah Winfrey Show, which we
Uh-huh.
all know as a huge phenomenon
Mm-hmm.
in TV. But that was the path that I wanted to follow. So as
Mm-hmm.
I was sharing with you earlier,
Yes.
I did not see education nor ministry in my destiny. It was to finance both
Yeah. Uh-huh.
education and ministry.
Uh-huh.
Always knew that both were very important
Yes.
and that
Yes.
there was work that needed to be
Mm-hmm.
done. So, but one day I was offered a position at my alma mater to work as assistant director of student activities. So, working with students in terms of leadership and
Uh-huh.
leadership development, planning activities. But in the midst of that, the vice president said, I need somebody to teach strategies for college survival. I'm up against the clock. And that doesn't happen,
Right.
to
Yeah.
principals and to
Right.
leaders,
Right.
but I'm up against the clock. I need somebody to teach this class. Can you do it?
Mm.
And I said, well, I'll try. And I began to teach. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I discovered, I said, oh boy, the writing is atrocious. I said,
Oh my goodness.
I
Yes.
need to,
Still is.
yes, I need to go back to
Mm-hmm.
school
Yeah.
and study language arts 7 through 12 so
Uh-huh.
I can work with younger children
Yes.
because I need to help them with this writing. They're not going to make it in college if
Yes.
we don't do something about this writing. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of my path to how I got into education.
Mm-hmm. And I like the way I don't want people to miss one nugget in what you said, and that is you had a dream.
Yes.
And we encourage everyone out there to just embrace your dream. As you embrace your dream, God now begins to navigate it. Maybe not like we want it, but still, He allows our dream now to be foundational for our future. So keep dreaming. Don't stop those dreams from coming.
And a lot of times individuals sleep on Fort
Yes.
Wayne.
Oh,
They don't
wow.
know what good can come out of Fort
Yes.
Wayne. Fort
Like
Wayne's like
Nazareth.
Nazareth.
Yes.
Yes. What good can come out of Nazareth.
Right.
But I am living proof. I'm not originally from Fort Wayne, but I'm proud to say that I've been here since 2006. So 20 of the 28 years that I've spent
Yes.
in education have been in this city. So
Yes.
that is phenomenal. And God used Fort Wayne to bring me back into
Oh
broadcasting
wow. Yes.
through
Yes.
radio and
Right.
then now
Yeah.
through Neutral Voices
Yeah.
Media Group. So again, right here in the Summit City.
And Pastor Chris, you have the voice for it. You have the
Bless you.
perfect, I mean, the perfect radio, television voice. We have our own Brian Gumble right here,
Wow.
and so we're glad to have him here at our Neutral Voices.
Yes, glad to be here.
But my story was a little bit different because I was a teacher by intention.
Yes.
Growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. There was only one other career that I thought that I might be interested in. I'm the oldest of 6 children, so we weren't a
Yes.
family of means, but definitely a family committed to community and committed to education. But I thought for a minute, I said maybe I'll be an airline stewardess and I'll get to travel because we didn't really travel and flying someplace with
Right.
6 kids was just out of the question. But I said, oh, but I don't see any old airline stewardess. I want to find something that I can do even when I get old. But now we have them of all ages.
Yes.
But so when I went to college, I was done in 3.5 years because I knew what I wanted to be. I just went right to it. And I had my first teaching job at 20.
Wow.
And I was of course, a lot younger, but a lot smaller then too. So I was about the same size as my students
Oh, wow.
because I taught 5th grade and I just loved it. And I taught for 11 years, but education was important. And I don't want our families to miss this because education was important in our home.
Yes.
Neither one of my parents had graduated. They had some college experience, but they didn't graduate. And so every day we had homework at home. So
Wow.
if our teacher didn't give us homework, our parents did. And all 6 of us would be sitting around the kitchen table after dinner. And then after dinner, that was another thing that's so different
Yes.
today. After dinner, and we would have work to do. We were a family of readers. In fact, even now, we're still a family of readers. I can remember books, even as adults, that we would read together as siblings. It would be in different places,
Sure.
but we'd share the title. And if we found a good book, we'd share it with each other. So growing up, so I was kind of like immersed in it. And we went to school dead or alive. You know,
Wow.
it wasn't like, oh, I have a headache. Can I stay home? Oh, no, that wasn't going to fly in our house.
Right.
You go to school with your headache. So
Yes.
whatever the issue was, I'm trying to think if I ever missed a day. Even when I went to college, somebody was saying, well, did you skip class? And I just said, oh, no, because my mom and dad's voice was still in the back of my head. Nope, I had 8 o'clock classes at least so I could get them over and enjoy the rest of
Right.
my day. But no, I was just kind of raised that way, and my parents' voice just always in my mind, in my head, about doing the right thing and just doing your best all the time. So I was kind of immersed into education. I think that was really like my first stimuli, just
Hmm.
even spiritually, to become an educator. And so I taught for 11 years, and then my principal came to me and he said, I think you'd make a good principal. Well, I was happy doing what I was doing. I wasn't even thinking about his job or being a principal. But at his encouragement, and this long story short, but as his encouragement, I pursued the job, and that following year, I was a principal in IPS. I was in Indy at the time, and I thought everybody taught like I did, but boy,
Wow.
now having the sky view, I said, "Ooh, there's just diversity of gifts even among
Yes.
among educators." And then, the story, I've been here since 1998 as a principal or principal mentor and working in schools. I went back and did, additional education like everybody else does. But it's just been my lifeline. I mean, I feel as if God has given me the gift of teaching.
Hmm.
I don't own it, but it's His gift to me for me to give to others. And so I had children late. In fact, I don't have any biological children. I wasn't able to bear children, but God blessed me with two sons. And I always said, before I even had my two sons, I said, God, I want to treat every child as if they were mine. I want to
Right.
give every child the grace I want mine to get, the love I want mine to get, the attention I want mine to get, the precision of instruction I want mine to get.
Hmm.
I want children as I'm mentoring them, as I'm growing them, God, it's like I want to grow. That's how I want people to treat my children, because I always had hopes of having children. I have children, lots of grandchildren, so I'm a happy woman right now.
Right.
But always wanted to be in education. But Pastor Chris, education is really under fire right now.
Yes, indeed.
And there are so many challenges that face us as educators. But it's still God's way. The Bible says that without knowledge, or vision, and people are perishing because we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the information we need to move forward. So we want to talk for a few minutes about some of those. We won't be able to cover everything today, but again, we ask you to give us your questions because your questions are important to us.
Yes.
So we want to talk a little bit about educators, and we talked about how things have just changed. It used to be you go to the classroom and you teach.
Yes.
Now you go to the classroom and you teach and you counsel and you feed and you give medication. I mean, there's
Yes.
so many things that schools do now that back in the day I don't recall them. If they were going on, I don't recall them at this level. So things have really changed culturally as far as the school
Right.
systems go.
And not to mention the additional responsibilities.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, if you're an elementary school teacher, you're
Yes.
doing dismissal.
Yes.
You have to do arrival, and
Yes.
then you also have
Do
to
lunch.
do lunch,
Yes.
and you have to advise groups,
Yes. Yes.
special interest groups,
Yes.
if they know that you have a little bit of a skill in an
Mm.
area.
Yes.
So, well, we need you to do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes
Right.
you're not asked, you're
You,
voluntold.
that's so
Yes.
true. That is so true.
So,
And that really leads us to one of the concerns that I think we face is as educators. It's just the whole concept of burnout
yes.
and being able to retain teachers. And actually, when you look at the statistics right now, we are having a teacher shortage. People are just not going into education as a profession. Maybe they'll navigate some like they navigated you, but they're not going into it as a profession as they once were.
No, they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Currently, I'm the director of academic advising at Ivy
yes,
Tech Community College. So we are working with students, helping them find out how they want to make their impact on the world, how
yes.
they want to make, as I call it, the first million.
Mm,
And I have a running joke in my office. There's a shortage of nurses and teachers.
yes.
Everybody wants to be a nurse, but nobody wants to be a teacher.
Mm,
and it
Wow.
just grieves me
Yes.
because I think it's one of the most rewarding professions there are that there could be.
Absolutely.
But in order for one to see the reward, you have to expose them, and you
So
have to
true.
expose them to the positive aspect, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
expose them early, and we have to be creative in
Yeah.
how we
Yeah.
expose them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we were exposed to the profession differently than how you would expose a young person today. The
Mm-hmm.
technology has grown,
Oh
for
my God.
one.
Yes. 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 For sure.
So I think
Yeah.
exposure's key. I think growing your own,
Mm.
um,
Ah. Yes.
identifying students who, in middle school, high school, even as early as late elementary school,
Yes.
that may have the propensity to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm. And I think the skill sets have just definitely enlarged as far as really what it takes to be a successful teacher nowadays because, there's a lot of emotional exhaustion. And, I remember going to the store once. It's been long. I still go to the store, but this was like back in the day. And I would run into one of my students and they were just shocked to see me at the store.
Right.
Like, oh, what, you go to the store? I said, yes. Teachers go to the store. And so teachers are people too.
Yes.
And the same problems that we have in our families, that
Right.
we have in our churches, in our community, adult teachers still have those same issues. Yet the expectation for them to be different and to be superhuman now still overshadows even
Right.
sometimes their ability to teach or even connect with students. So I think that emotional exhaustion that sometimes teachers just need a break. The
Right.
expectations are so high right now. I went to a birthday party over the weekend, and the student who we were celebrating, after we sang happy birthday and how old she was, she said her mother said, "Now make your announcement." And her announcement was, "I passed I read." Now,
Wow.
when have we been to a celebration where that was the headliner? But
Mm.
the pressure to achieve, and I thought about that too. And I
And
know
that's
this
the
is
pressure on the
it's
student,
the student and pressure on the
on the
teacher,
teacher. Yes.
because if you can't move them to pass
Right.
that test, that's pressure as well. And I thought about, oh, Pastor Chris, I thought about this the other day. We ask students, and the sanctions that go along with that
Right.
test concern me because we ask students to take this one test on this one day, and now that determines your future.
Yes.
That determines whether or not you're going to the next grade. When we know as educators that children are so multifaceted that even when we teach, we take a multimodality approach. We want to make sure that we're giving them
Mhm.
the visual. We're going back and we're reviewing all
Right.
those components that really define who a good teacher is and what a good teacher does. They're all absent when students face these high
Right.
stakes tests, not just at third grade, but at every level. The stakes test, and now the test even to be a teacher, that's
Yes.
stressful. And really people that can connect with kids and connect with people, they can make great teachers, but
Yes.
maybe not being able to take those high stakes tests. There are people that just freeze up when it
Right.
comes to taking a test, and the expectation, the pressure from those high stakes tests, I think really has done our overall profession. Like, you mean I've got to take Johnny, who doesn't even know how to sit still, and I got to teach him how to read. So the
Yes.
behavioral
Hmm.
issues that students now bring to our environment, because of a lot of reasons, we can talk about that too. Just the different kinds of behaviors that teachers have to deal with and manage, so that now I get how do I get everybody's attention now to focus in on this particular topic? I had a student tell me the other day, she said, "Well, I just want you to know that I have an anger issue."
How old was the student?
Second grade.
Wow.
"I have an anger issue." To which I said, "Look around the room. You see all these humans? They all have anger issues.
Right.
I have anger issues. But in school, we learn how to manage it
Exactly.
because we have a job to get done. So I need you to think about, how do I control my anger issues so I can get my math done, so I can get my book read? So it's managing those emotions, not denying that they exist
Right.
or even rebuking somebody for having it, but now the Bible talks about self-control as
Yes.
one of the fruit that God gives us, so we're connected to him. So, I didn't say this to her, but I can say it now. Let's ask Jesus to give you the ability to control yourself,
Right.
because you're going to need this education tomorrow, not in the
Exactly.
future. You're going to need it today. So being able to manage those emotions, and the kids that are confessing, I've got anxiety issues. I'm wondering, well, where was this, back in the day? And so I
Right.
think it's the time now where teachers are managing so many different things, lack of planning time. And, one, I used to do a lot of things for my teachers just to kind of keep them encouraged, building in that whole system of gratitude, letting them know how much I appreciate their sacrifice, giving them extra time, pulling all the kids together in the gym and doing something so they can have an extra hour of planning time, being sensitive when they have an emergency in the morning and they're running late or whatever. All these
Yes.
sensitive human things that happen to your family happens to their families as well.
Right.
So really being sensitive to all of those things. So I think that and giving them a voice. We all want to find our voice in life,
Yes.
and giving them a chance to find their voice. And even as a principal, there are some things that are just top down. Bottom
Yes.
line, this is what we have to do. But not in every area. Our voices are neutral. Okay,
Yes.
so we
That's
want
it.
so we want to give them a voice where we can give them a voice. This is an option. We have teams of leaders at buildings that really represent the voice of the teacher. But whatever we can do to let them feel affirmed and let them feel joyful, even for my kindergartner, he'll say, I want to take this to my teacher. I want to do this for my teacher. So that apathy that we want to build
Yes.
in students, to be kind to the teacher, to be loving toward teacher and being kind. I think all those fruits of the spirit just really come to play. But teacher burnout, it is difficult. Nobody wants to be a teacher anymore. And we need teachers.
We do.
We need teachers. We need teachers. And we
As
need,
one of my aunts would say, like
yes,
nobody's
like
business.
like no like nobody's business. Oh, I have to tell you this. I was one of the days that this has been several years ago. It's been since I've been in Fort Wayne, but I was at the doctor's office, and a lady came in and she had her children with her.
Yes.
So I'm waiting on my name to be called, and I heard her say, "Boy, I sure hope they have school tomorrow because you guys are getting on my nerves." I'm thinking, what in the world?
Wow.
What in the world? So I don't want families to look at education as babysitting,
Not at all.
because the work that teachers do, it's long, hard, and strenuous, and being able to meet the academic needs of every learner is a challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
And you brought up a very important point is part of the teacher burnout and part of teacher shortage is lack of parental support.
Yes. Yes.
And I think there's so many layers to that. But I think
Yes.
we have to work with our parents on how to be supportive
Yes.
and knowing what questions to ask.
And just to be involved
And just to be,
initially. Don't just
yes,
go up there when there's an issue.
right.
Let's meet the teacher. Let's talk about how your child is doing and be a part of the process ongoing. Now they have technology, Parent Square, that
Hmm.
keeps parents abreast of what's happening. And look for the good as well as your concerns, because teachers are interested in your concerns, but also we want to make sure that that positive is there too, because remember, teachers are people too.
Yes,
We want to
very
make sure
much
that that
so.
happens. Yeah.
We talked about the teacher shortage, we've
Yep.
talked about parental involvement. You are also a leader in a school.
Yeah.
And so, if we have a teacher shortage, we also have a leadership pipeline
Yes, we
shortage.
do. Yes, we
Yes,
do.
because if we can get the teacher recruited,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes, and we do need veteran teachers in the
Yes.
classroom.
Yes, we do.
We do need
We need their
teachers to lead
experience.
from where
Yes.
they sit, but
Mm-hmm.
we also need them to go into
Yes,
administration
we
as
do.
well.
Yes, we do. And, I'm a part of Fort Wayne Community Schools, and Dr. Joe Brown and I put together a program, and it's called Transformational Effective Leaders for Schools. And our goal was to really build that pipeline. But it's interesting, really, how many people just don't want to be a principal, even. I mean, the same thing is happening there,
Right.
because the pressure is still there. Being able to deal with all kinds of personalities and be able to not take things personally. I I've been cussed out before, but I still am loving and kind.
Yes.
And many times they'll come back and say, I didn't mean to say those words, and I said I understand, which I do understand. There's
Right.
their skill sets as well, but taking them where they are and not making them feel guilty,
Yes.
or in any way they present themselves, but they are concerned parents. We had a student concern, and so I called this one mom, and she had a few choice words. But when she came to the school, she just gave me a hug and thanked me for, even though she was being kind of
Right.
rude. She was really appreciative of the fact that we maintain our posture as the professional, and so leaders must always maintain their posture, and sometimes it's difficult to do. And so for me, it's my relationship with God. Jesus helps
Yes.
keep me centered. I couldn't do this without him. And I testify all the time. It's God that makes a difference in what we're able to accomplish. But I think school systems everywhere need to be aware of the fact that we really need teachers, we need principals, and we need the diversity of teachers and principals.
Yes.
We need people that are in leadership in schools that look like the students that they're serving as well, so they have somebody else to kind of identify with. That's an issue too. But yeah, we need to definitely make sure that the leader is somebody that's going to be calm and composed no matter what. Just smile when you don't want to smile. I do exercise on the video, and so the person that does it, she's always smiling, and she always tells us to smile. Usually when I do it, my grandson isn't there. So the other day I was doing it, he was there. He said, "Grandmother, smile." I said, "That's right, smile, smile." So we have to be happy. You, you
Yes.
you have to own in the educational experience. You must own your own joy and find
Absolutely.
your own place of center and say, I'm doing this for the benefit of the students and the teachers, and I have to own my own joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Own our own joy.
Mm,
And before the broadcast started, we talked about the proverbial shortage of finances.
yes.
You know, as leaders, we want to fund every project
Yes,
because
yes.
all of them are needed.
Right, exactly.
And there's probably 10 or 12 we haven't thought of that we need to do.
That is for sure.
But there's only so many resources. And then now resources have really become
Yeah,
scarce.
right. And the price per student that the state
Yes.
gives has not really changed, and there's really a lack of equity in that disbursement as
Hmm.
well. But the teachers never have enough money to even buy all the materials that they would like to have for their classroom.
Right.
So there's always fundraising going on. So I encourage parents to take advantage of those fundraisers because it does bring additional resources into the classroom where teachers really need it the most. But whatever we can do to make their life easier, let's just do it. It's the world is in a I want to say it's in like a biting mode. Like let me just that friction
Yes.
person to person. But at some point there has to be a difference maker.
There
And
has
as
to be a difference
educators,
maker.
I believe we can be the difference maker. That we can bring the calm in the midst of the storm. Like Jesus said, peace, the storm is coming, but
Yes.
there has to be the peacemaker. The educator is the peacemaker. There has to be somebody to give you a second chance when the world says you'll never be anything. But you know what? There's a teacher that steps in the midst of it that says, I see value in you, young man. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many kids. Oh, this one is doing this now or doing this
Right.
now because somebody gave them a chance. Didn't count them out with one mistake. Didn't count them out because they talked too much
Yes.
or they were a little bit aggressive. I think what
Right.
I remember reading something a long time ago about how Eddie Murphy was as a student.
Yes.
You can imagine all the practical jokes he played on
Right.
everybody, but now he's bringing in the millions. So I'm talking about exercising the knowledge of valuing the gift and the richness that every child, every student, every learner brings to the educational process.
You know what, Bishop? We've had a great time, but guess what? Our time is up.
Oh,
Yes, our time is up, and will definitely have to
mm-hmm.
continue this discussion.
Yes.
But we are just so grateful for every teacher that has invested in a child.
Yes.
And what I say keeps us coming back is when you see a child go from point A to point B, what
Yes.
you just described,
Yes.
when
Yes.
the light bulb goes
Yes.
off and you see
Yes.
them grasp a concept
Yes.
that you had struggled to model
Mm.
and model effectively so they could get it based
Yes.
upon their learning style.
Yes.
That's why we continue to work in this profession. That's
Mm.
why we continue to give back. That's why we continue to touch the future, because
Yes.
an investment
Yes.
in our child
Yes.
today is a profitable gain tomorrow.
Yes.
Education is the key to success, for the
Yes.
future belongs to those who prepare for it today.
Amen.
Bishop, close us out.
Oh, it has been rich. And even though we face many challenges, we are not without hope.
That's
We are
it.
not without power because God who is in us is for us. And I declare right now that no weapon that is formed against the education of our young people
Yes.
shall prosper, but God now will bring it to fruition and He will allow our young people to really become more than what they think they are right now because there's greatness in every learner. And I wrote this down. It said the future of schools
Mm.
depends not only on strategy, but on courage, compassion, and collaboration. So, teachers everywhere, be strong and be courageous. And let's not forget, let's collaborate with our families. God bless you today.
God bless you.